Check, 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 1, 2. Check, 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 1, 2, check, 1, 2. Check, 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 1, 2, check, 1, 2. Check, 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 1, 2, check, 1, 2. Check, 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 1, 2, check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2. Check, 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 1 2, check 1 2, check, check. Check 1 2, check, check 1 2.
Yeah, oh, geez, that sounds loaded.
We're basically fighting for the championship of the bottom round. Yeah, we're we had Erica on last night, coaches. Erica, he walked on got 4 seniors this year, so this is a good chance. It's gonna be all or nothing right here. Last. There you go.
Sir, how are you? You all right?
See your
I
big
think
interview?
they edited pretty good.
Yeah.
But,
They gave a good overview of what the stadium comes along with. AHSA came down and did they're doing the game, that's tonight's their game of the week, so they came down, I took them down to Uncle Mick's, so they're going to local place, and then they interviewed the mayor, checked the stadium out, and everything. It's going, I think they'll play it also at halftime tonight during their broadcast.
Appreciate the resolution of the night. I've been out of town. It almost feels like presidential. Most people have made their minds up. Okay.
I tell you about it all the time, I just wish y'all didn't.
Yes.
But some of that was, I'm gonna hear it because I'm around.
It's not an easy, like, 5 minute, yes, and so people aren't. Yeah.
I gave up. I just gave up. Up here, they're gonna find a way. They're gonna find a way.
But we're powerless.
But we can't change, we can't change everything, we can change our process, this is how we can
If
change.
it's in their mind, the wrong thing to do.
But you gotta have an open mind.
Oh, that's a very, very big thing.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it is. But just the
That's a
hatred that
superpower
is,
now.
if we disagree, that I have to hate you. Violent hate you, yes. Like, people aren't willing to step out because.
Senator, how are you? I like to go to you. Jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can sleep in our room.
You know, I was taught that in corporate. We get loud in corporate, we come out. That's where we lost.
We got light.
Okay.
Yes.
And about what you're doing.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
And that's all I can
Yep.
ask. Don't
Absolutely.
ever apologize about it.
You're 657-33.
That is me.
Okay, I'm gonna text you. Yeah, you gotta leave my website. Yeah. We don't have to ask questions. But, I mean, you can ask whatever question you want, but if you need some questions, we have.
Okay. So we have a change. So we need to bring another chair.
Okay.
We had,
Oh, but still.
we'd already,
Okay.
we'd already taken
Okay.
buildings down.
So you just told Jeff. I told Jeff. So took the stuff down as well. Your ambulance.
We still only have 3 people, like, within that meeting.
Okay.
So, we're good. I'm missing a door hanger though.
That was okay. This is. Well, I mean, it would have looked really odd if we sat in the audience.
Yes, ma'am, it would have. I was trying to figure out how to rectify that in my brain.
No, I was panicking. I just didn't want anybody to know.
Well, and then trouble went coming. I was like, yeah, but this makes me feel better.
Yeah.
But we don't even have any people.
At least we look, you know.
Yeah.
It will be a huge visual. I just needed to.
Yeah. I know. I don't. Honestly, I can't. Honestly, I can't imagine you getting up here. I can't streaming.
There's no way.
Dapper Dan!
Wesley. He's an ambassador.
So I'm in town. That's Dapper Dan. His name's no longer Wesley.
Why would you get up here and publicly say something negative?
Covertly?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're gonna stomp on what's up.
I was gonna say that.
I'm just called,
Let's send it Well, he was, when we were on, when he was on the interviews, he would get up.
He's not charged.
Because he will not be available,
Yes,
so
I
he
get
won't
that.
put.
No, he won't.
Hey, but we were talking about me. To be sharing
I mean, it's one thing for y'all to put it out.
No, we've tried.
So do we.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
Thank you, sir.
They all listen. So, I was using it last week. If he gets such a good question that actually
I'll bob and weave, whatever you gotta do. So I'm literally just briefly about the tax and go over the yes, no stuff, and then y'all gonna open up those.
Briefly, how you so you can do the extended version.
Well, we don't have any. So I think you hit this, hit this, and then you talk about the money. And then you go straight into that. This is your drink. Here, I'm gonna take all your slides.
When you can't show.
Everybody and they didn't like it. Nobody likes it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't either. Nobody likes it. I had one. Well,
I was just, I had to figure what you do.
I mean, you're betting on yourself.
But since he's streaming,
There's your slides. How does that feel? Read through those.
I'm glad you.
We can't see it, but you can share. And then you go into your, and then you're gonna sit down. You'll all be one panel.
Okay, so I do a little spill, sit down,
And then we start taking
and then questions
Yep.
start coming.
Yep. And y'all have a mic you're gonna pass around. They're gonna be zero and ones.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do a lot of
You're not streaming yet, are you? You're not streaming yet, are you?
Oh, yeah, everybody heard everything said.
That's what I was worried about.
Okay.
You have to give us the mics are hot.
And we were like, I'm like,
By the way, Rebecca, that's why I skipped you.
I know. I always give people, hey, the mics are hot, heads up. Stacy just lets us hang ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
well, I just kind of said all this stuff and
Yeah.
Stacy probably somewhere has content that could bury half
Oh,
this.
I'm
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
I know the truth. I don't know if I want
But I think this is how we got here.
what you do.
This is where we are.
to just some basics.
Why did you immediately go to me? I do not
You can
not
encourage
feel
them
like
to
that.
watch your presentation for the full piece.
Alright, so we're just waiting on Dana.
Yeah, because I think they said he was running late, but I also haven't seen the star. Oh, they're both here. Okay. I had not seen. Oh, all three of them. Dan walked in.
So.
please join me on stage, please. Superintendent Woodford as well. All right, good morning again. I am Jimmy Morris Jr., Chairman of the Prattville Area Chamber of Commerce. I would like to welcome everyone to our community conversation with Superintendent Woodford and our local legislators. Education is a key focus for the Chamber, and we are committed to ensuring the children in our community receive the best possible opportunities. Our local schools play a vital role in making education a strong incentive for both businesses and families to choose Prattville as their home. With that being said, we are proud to promote a yes vote on November 5th. The Prattville Area Chamber of Commerce is proud to support and continue promoting the success of our schools. For more information and a calculation for your personal increase, visit our website at prattvillechamber.com. Vote yes. At this time, I will call Joe Matthews up for our invocation.
Knees don't work as good as they used to. First of all, let me thank our legislators for helping us to get this far. Let me tell you why we came to Prattville. 50 years ago, I went down to Squatter Office School at Maxwell. All I could hear was, if you are fortunate enough to come back to Maxwell, to Air Command and Staff College or the War College, the only place you want to live is in Prattville, Alabama. I said, why is it so important? It's the best education system in central Alabama. That's all I heard. We didn't come back to Air Command and Staff College. I went out to the Army at Fort Leavenworth, and I won't tell you about what they have out there so good. But I did come back to their War College, and we didn't stop anywhere until we got to Prattville, Alabama, because of the education system. That was in '85. How many of you have been in your homes for 30 years? Do you ever do any repair on your home? If we don't do the repair to help our school system, the school system will not stay at the level that it always has been. It is remarkable what we've been able to do with what we have. But folks, in just a couple of weeks, we have the opportunity to give our school system an overhaul to help keep it as the best education system in the state. And without their help, our legislators and our government officials, that would not have been possible. We just need to do what is right for our children. You know, our forefathers paid for ours. It's time that we make sure that our children and our grandchildren have the same opportunities that we had. After all, in just a few years, they'll be where you are. And without that education, we won't. One last quick story. We were in Germany not too long ago at Normandy, and someone said to a bunch of veterans from the United States, why in the world would you come over here and sacrifice your life? During the interview, a group of school children walked behind them. The old veteran turned around and said, that's why. That's why. Our future lies with our children. And it is our responsibility to see to it that we prepare them for the future. And that's what this will do. Join in prayer. Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the opportunity together to talk about the future of our children, to talk about the future leaders of our country. And we ask ask that you guide us in each and everything that we do, each thing we say, and that you guide us through this situation that we have with this tax. We thank you for our leadership that has given us this opportunity, and we ask that everything that we do will be pleasing in your sight. In Christ's name we ask you. Amen.
Thank you, Joe, for that invocation. At this time, I would like to recognize our elected officials. State Senator Honorable Clyde Chambliss. State Representatives Honorable Jerry Starnes. Our very own Mayor Beard Gillespie. Prattville City Councilman Mike Whaley, District 5. Ottawa County Board of Education members Kim Crockett, Kyle Glover. Are there any others that we missed? Van Smith, District 42. All right. At this time, I would like to reintroduce our state legislators. We have with us Honorable Clyde Chambliss, Alabama Senate, District 30. Honorable Van Smith, Alabama House, District 42. Honorable Jerry Starnes, Alabama House, District 88. We regret that Representative Kevin Lawrence is not here due to other commitment. And we will have remarks from our senators, legislators, and Superintendent Wolford, and then Superintendent Wolford will take questions from the floor.
I'm sorry, what? Guys, y'all want to start off with anything real quick? Or we appreciate you guys coming in this morning and all the help that you've given us. And I'm going to go over that in a little bit, but anything y'all want to say?
I'd like to express my appreciation to everyone that's come out this morning to become more informed about the question that is before us. And it is a privilege that we live in a country that we actually have a say. We get to make this decision. And it is a decision that does impact our future. And you know, I get it. I pay more in taxes than I want to pay already. I mean, I'm there. I'm there with you all. But I think that's more of a federal problem than a local problem. We pay too much in federal taxes where there's very little accountability. I think we pay about right in state taxes, and our local taxes are low. That's where we have the most accountability. I don't think I'm going to change that in the next few weeks, but we have to look beyond and to what our system needs, and to my grandchildren, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Are we going to have a mediocre system in a mediocre system state? Or are we going to have the top in the state of Alabama and give our children the best opportunity possible? Obviously, people differ in their opinions on that question. But for me personally, I'm willing to make that investment in my children, my grandchildren, and everyone. And people ask me and say, well, you know, I don't have any children in the system, or my children are out of the system. Why should I be involved? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but I can boil it down to a couple real quick. When your air condition goes out on a hot July day, don't you want somebody who's educated and knows how to repair that system to come and get it back running? You don't have that level of technical ability without an education. What about your car? There are computers now. When they go out, you need someone that is educated to be able to repair that and get you back on the way. and on and on and on. There are hundreds of examples like that. That's why we all need an educated workforce. It's all in all of our best interests. So I urge everybody to go to the polls and to make their voice known. Obviously, some will say that's not fair, I don't want to do that, or for whatever reason, but that's your right. But for me, it's something that I want to do to invest in our future.
Well, good morning. I have several things I want to say, but I'm going to wait till after the presentation and things, and I don't want to be redundant. But I do want to say this became an issue for me probably about 8 years ago. We were in a tri-governmental meeting, and the superintendent said, I do not have books for my seniors. They have to share. They're not able to take textbooks to their home and be able to study. And I said, that is a crying shame that's an issue for us here in Watauga County. And you know, I had to look up yesterday that we're the number 5 county as in the highest median income in the state. And we're at 58,000. And prior to us, we've got Shelby County, Madison, Elmore, and Limestone. And the highest is Shelby with 77,789. And Shelby County has a very good county school system. So I'm hoping with this at Valorem and with the yes vote that we become very competitive with our county schools. So I just want to say that we're ranked 128 out of 138 and ranked in the U.S. number 46 out of 50. And so that brings us way to the bottom. So with that being said, I won't say any more. I don't want to steal the thunder from Lyman, but please encourage everybody to vote yes. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and I do support this. 37 years of public education. I believe in the public education system. I think it's the best way for us to educate the masses. I know that homeschool and charter schools and private schools have a part, but I think that if that were the best way, then how do we get everybody else educated? And so I was at that meeting that Jerry was in 8 years ago, and I was asked, because I affiliate with a little different group than maybe you do, I was asked, how do we propose a tax and have Alpha not fight that tax? And so we searched for several different ways. And we asked the county commission to do some things and to meet and make some decisions, and they did. And so there were some of those decisions that I really couldn't support. Clyde then, with our help, came up with a different option that the voters decided they didn't want. And so we were sent back to the table to consider again. If I weren't supportive of this, all I would have had to have done was not sign the legislation. So I think it is an investment, as these guys have said, for the future, and it's extremely important because we see school systems that are not doing what we would like to be a part of. So we want to be that school system like Representative Starnes says that is excelling. And so I do want to give you a little bit of understanding, though, if a tax increase changes a business and you have to pay more ad valorem tax, you can pass that along as a business. You can pass that along through an increase in prices. Just understand, when you have the agricultural community, oppose this, some of which will oppose it, but not all. But when they oppose it, just understand their commodity that they're selling trades on an open market. So you can't say, well, I want $1 more a bushel for my soybeans, and make up the difference in what I had to pay in ad valorem. So those individuals, a lot of them have made the choice not to go to public school also. And so, as Senator Chambliss and I were talking this morning, we've done things, though, to try to help that, in the fact that we have given them the opportunity now to do school of choice, have that dollar that they pay in ad valorem tax to follow them to the school of their choice. So we've given them a way that they haven't had in the past, where they could recoup those tax dollars. We've done that. We've also done things such as remove taxes off of wire and post that it takes to to upgrade a farm where you can have cattle and those kind of things. So we also, in this legislation way before me, we had current use set up to give them a break on taxes that because it is in timber or it is in cropland. So there's lots of things that have been done to soften the blow so that it's not quite as harsh. But I think that this is something we need to do. The question I started with was, what can we do that they won't, try to defeat? Well, understand there's going to be some things that do come out that are going to be negative, and that will be made. A decision will be made about that soon. And what I've done is, as I promised Senator Chambliss and Representative Starnes and Superintendent Woodfin, I'm trying to keep him abreast, so you'll have the ability to say, well, that's not exactly right. And so, we don't want we don't want a false campaign running against it. We want the truth running against it. And so it is an investment for the future, and I hope that this is successful.
Thank you, guys. Before I do a quick presentation, first I want to thank, obviously, the Chamber for, again, your steadfast support, putting on these events for us. Your public support a few weeks ago at the Board of Education meant a lot to me and the Board of Education. We appreciate you guys and all that you do. Also want to thank Mayor Gillespie and the City Council. We appreciate your public support the other night as well. Also want to thank you guys. There's been a lot of work that we've all met and talked about, and I appreciate the public support that you guys have all put out as well. And guys, we understand the sensitive nature of asking people to pay more tax. We understand that completely. We're all in the same economy as everybody else is in right now. We all have the same fears of how that economy moves forward. Some of that fear is why we're here today, because you just don't know how things are going to play out, but I do know how things look financially for the district. One thing that you will see here in a minute, again, this presentation is going to be severely cut down in terms of length so that we can get to the question and answers. I think that's more important. You guys are able to ask anything that you want. One thing that my board members, who I appreciate being here as well, and myself completely believe in, is transparency. And we're going to answer anything we possibly can. And I appreciate what Mr. Smith just said. If people vote yes, hey, that's great. We're very thankful. If people vote no, hey, we're thankful for that as well. I just appreciate you guys having the character to allow the citizens of Watauga County to have the vote. And that means more to me and our board members and our community than I can adequately explain. I am committed, and our board is committed, to carrying out the vision that the people of Watauga County tells us to go forward. And that's what I'm about to go over here in a minute. I'll go over some of the things that, some of the misconceptions that are out there with the yes/no signage. The whole point of our campaign is, number one, as you all know, we cannot take a stance publicly while I'm on the clock, so to speak. Our job is to put out the information. And the information that I'll go over here in a second, again, is full transparency. We just want to put it out there to give the citizens the right to vote. And again, that is the greatest thing about this country. And I know we all agree the same. And again, thank you so much for giving our people the opportunity. But everybody's going to see the information. They will be able to make the choice that best suits them and their families. And then we will carry out the will of the people. So very excited about that. I'm ready for November 5th to get here. And we'll carry out how we go from there. But real quick, We've been doing community meetings. We did a live stream the other day as well. This will not be nearly as long or nearly as detailed as those meetings. I encourage anyone, you can log into, or excuse me, you can go to acvole.net. We have a whole page dedicated to all this. I hope I don't push it down. Anything that I go over, any of the presentations, they're all there. You're welcome to log in and see. Also, if you have questions, I believe, Mr. Mills, or are we doing it where they can ask questions? I believe if you're watching live, if you want to ask something, I believe we have it set up where we'll answer those questions as well. Again, transparency, full transparency. All right, so the first question in these presentations that's come up, and again, I get asked this a lot, is, well, why are we even doing this? Okay. If you've been to the community meetings, or if you went to the state of the school meetings last year, you saw that on the first slide, and I know we don't have a slide right here, but on the first slide, I literally go over why we're here. When I was first hired, we did a financial audit, a group called Rice Advisory. They work hand in hand with Dr. Matthews' office. I've been in Natal County all my life. I've heard the horror stories of how bad we were financially. Well, I wanted an honest assessment of what we looked like. Rice Advisory came in, they did a multiple month-long study. They audited our finances, they looked at everything. When I first came in, I had the goal like everybody else did. I wanted to build some new buildings. I wanted to do some things, but of course that requires going to the bond market and getting bonds. Rice Advisory, and again, I'm going to read you, again, this is on the slides. You're welcome to go to our website. It said the audit indicates that the district is currently running on a very tight budget, meaning existing revenues are just enough to cover expenses. In order to increase the operating efficiency of the system, either revenues need to be generated or expenses need to be cut. A growth in revenue would include an increase in ad valorem taxes, and a cut in expenses might include, but not be limited to, a decrease in existing services offered, layoffs, and possibly the closing of schools. That's a sobering analysis, less than a year on the job, but I appreciate the honesty. But what I was trying to get Rice Advisor to tell me is, can we access the bond market? So he took the study a little further, and again, this is all on the website, and we even include the document that he gave me. So again, everything's out there. You're welcome to see it yourself. He posed two questions. It said, number one, could Autauga County access the bond market? The answer there is yes. His second follow-up that I did not ask him to do was this: should Autauga County access the bond market currently? That's where that analysis comes in that I just read you. He does not recommend without an increase in revenue or a decrease in expenses. Guys, every one of us in here are business people. I'm in the business educating kids. You guys all have your own businesses. Everybody watching at home, even if you're not in a business, your business is to keep your family afloat at home. We're all under the same restrictions. If my expenses are higher than my income, I've got to cut expenses. That is the only way that we can even access the bond market, and that's what he's saying here. The analogy he gave us, and I've used this multiple times, he said, Autauga County Schools is the guy who wants a bigger house. You want a bigger house for your family. You go to the bank approves you. We all know, and I'm not being ugly here, we all know that some of the banking issues we've had over the years is we were approving a lot of people that maybe shouldn't have gotten the loan. The reality is, he is telling us you shouldn't. If you get the loan, you can buy the house, but you cannot buy a car, you cannot go out to eat. That's all your money's going to be tied up in these things. So it was a very sobering day. I was meeting with him in the office when he gave me this analysis. I said, so literally, how bad is it? He said, you can do it, but I don't know how you're going to pay for a major expense, such as if the AC goes out at Prattville High School again. Those of you who don't know, before I was hired, that cost a couple $1 million for us to redo the AC at Prattville High School. He said, you don't have the money for those types of expenses. Guys, I'm not being ugly. When the newest school in Prattville High School was built in Prattville was built in 1996, you're going to have things pop up. When you're relying on buildings that are over 100 years old, you're going to have things pop up. The newest school in the district, Marbury High School, was built in 2010. You're gonna have things pop up. So that was a sobering reality that he gave us. And again, all this information is online. I encourage anybody to go look at it. So the next part of that is, what are some things about the tax to clarify some issues or questions that's popped up? I appreciate you guys. I think it was Representative Smith that was talking about the previous initiative. That's where some of the confusion is. This vote is countywide. It will benefit all kids in the Talk County schools. I've been asked numerous times, well, what are y'all gonna build with it? There is nothing that I'm gonna go over in a minute that's labeled as buildings. Now, I just read you the analysis. If we have some extra revenue, is it possible to access the bond market? The answer is yes. Is it enough? I'm not even going there because my focus as superintendent is this. If we don't shore up our personnel and give our people a reason to want to stay in the Talk County schools, you can build all the buildings you want. You have to invest in our employees. You have to invest in our kids. Now, the buildings are important as well. That's why it's a major issue. We're going to try to figure out how to solve it. But you got to invest in your people. And this tax, that's what it's focusing on. If it's passed, and I'll get to this in a minute, we're focusing on our people. Now, for each meal, it's about $1 million, so we're estimating about $7 million will come to us in local revenue. And I've said this a couple times because I don't think the public fully understands. You have the Talk County Board of Education, I hate to say checkbook, but you have our finances, then you have the City of Prattville, and then you have the Talk County Commission. Now, we all work together, but that's 3 separate entities. This money goes into our local funds. Now, I'll explain that in a second because that's the biggest misconception. But it would give us about $7 million, and then like, I think it was Representative Starnes said, we currently rank 128 out of 138 systems in total funding, okay? I made this statement to a buddy. He started laughing. I didn't know why he was laughing. And he goes, look, you need to make sure you say that. He asked me, well, you know, what would this bump us up to if it goes through? I said, we'll be 114th. And he started laughing, and I was like, man, why are you laughing? He goes, I don't think people understand that number right there is telling everybody y'all are not asking for just an outrageous amount of money. So that's a good point. We're asking for enough to be able to solidify our people. That's what it's all about. Solidify our people, give our schools the resources they need to educate our kids. So again, it's countywide. It'll be 7 meals. If it's approved, I'm gonna go over this stuff in a minute, the things that we would like to do. If it's not approved, again, you have to get back on track with your budget, and the things I'm gonna talk about on the no side are things that we would have to look at possibly cutting to get back on track. All right, so I've also been doing this going around. I know I don't have a slide up here, but the way our funding is, we have 3 pots of money, okay? You have federal dollars, you have state dollars, you have local dollars. Federal dollars, they're earmarked, all right? And I've used this example several times. Our homeless student program is a great program in our system. Like I have seen, before it was Ms. Dial and now it's Dr. Holloway, they're over those programs. They do a tremendous job meeting the needs of our students that are homeless, okay? It's a great program, but I'm gonna use this for example. Let's say the federal government gives us $100,000 for our homeless program. Let's say to fully meet the needs of our students, we only spend $50,000. In every other business, it would make sense to move whatever you don't need to fit the need somewhere else. That is not how it works with federal dollars or state dollars. If they're earmarked for that program, you have to spend that money in those areas. So our federal dollars is a wash. They're earmarked. Our state dollars, for the most part, are used on personnel. We have some flexibility, but again, not nearly the flexibility that we would like. Most of our state dollars covers our employees. The only other pot that you have where you can make things happen is called local dollars. That's where the ad valorem increase comes in. All of those dollars come into our local pot. All right. So we've used these fancy $1 million bucks to try to explain to people, you know, what we're dealing with. As many of you know, I've coached a long time in the system. I have many, my kids, they play many sports. I'm all over the place at venues, and all I hear is, well, why don't our facilities look like these? The way you improve your facilities is to get bonds through local dollars. Just remember that, because when I get to the end, it's going to make sense why we're not accessing the bond market. It's going to make sense why Mr. Williams said you can, but I don't recommend it. Okay, So I have 21 of these dollars, which represents our local revenue, okay? Our total expenses that come out of this is gonna be about 200,000 less. I'm gonna round up and down. It's gonna be kind of hard to do to hold the mic, but here we go. All right, so to get our $69 million from the state, we have to do what's called a foundation match, okay? The question has come up numerous times, and it is a great question. With all the houses that are being built and all the property values going up, why do y'all need this? The state law is our 10 mills, our dollar amount for 10 mills, whatever that amount is, we have to give that back to the state to get $69 million back. So although the value of the mill has increased, the difference has not, because we get 10 mills of funding, we send 10 mills back to the state. With this tax proposal, we would have 17 mills. So think of it like that. The 10 for 10 is a trade, we get to keep the 7. Other districts that have more millage than we do, that's where they build in a lot of buffer on their local revenue. So what I was just talking about, $69 million for the state foundation program. Most of that goes to employees. We have to give 10 of these to get to 69. So I'm on 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, they get stuck sometimes. It gets a little awkward. My great fear every time I've done this is I'm gonna miscount and get to the end of these stuff. They get stuck sometimes, and I'm hoping today's not that day. All right, so the same thing on state capital match and sped maintenance of effort. Long story short, we get pots of money, but we have to give them a little money to get the greater pot of money. So those amounts are $439,000, $413,000, so I'm gonna round up, that's about 1. Okay, then we have CMP salaries and benefits. I'm gonna camp out on this in just a minute because that's some of the biggest blowback we've got. You guys are trying to scare people with the free lunch program. I'm gonna explain it in detail in just a second. On our budget, we have to account for their salaries and benefits for our lunch staff because, as you know, your lunchroom program cannot have a profit, okay? So you're hoping to break even, but oftentimes we have to use what's called pass-through money. Okay, you'll hear that a lot in education systems. That's what this 2.3 million is we're having to build a buffer to make sure that they have the money they need to operate. So that's 2.3, I'm gonna say 2. All right, career tech match, unfunded pre-K, central office personnel, ARI, the Alabama Reading Initiative, 2.6. So again, I just rounded down, I'll round up, so that's about 3. Maintenance supplies, driver's ed costs, local school transfers, 1.6. So that's about 2. And then, as you can see, I'm gonna say there's 3.6. I don't have it 3 left. Up and down, I can tell you when you add up the total amount of our local revenue and then the things that come out of your local revenue, this $1 million bill, there's 1/5 of 1 left. There's $200,000 left in our budget. Now, I've been very transparent with this. Last year when I gave this presentation, there was about $2.5 million left. When I got to that point, I said, we're covering these things out of the 2.5. What Ms. Poe and I and the board are doing different this year is, we have line items in our budget, I just went over it, central office personnel, some other things, that historically the district has pulled funding from schools to fund those positions. We are not doing that, okay? We are using our local revenue to fund those, and we're keeping school dollars at the school level. Does that make sense? So now that's a little misleading to only have 200,000. It's basically the same amount left, but we're just line iteming that way. If I need to cut expenses, I know exactly how much I have in central office and other positions to be able to make those cuts, and it'd be much more transparent to the public what we're doing, okay? So why are we not doing schools left and right? You have plenty of money in your account. We do. Okay, I'm gonna say this. We have about $40 million that is left in our account. That has been built up falsely in a good way. I know this is gonna sound terrible, and I've said it several times, and I usually get some eyes that get really big when I say this. COVID was terrible, okay? I lost family members to it, many of you did. COVID was awful. From a business standpoint for education, it was good for districts because we got an influx of money that we've never seen before. So I've got to give previous superintendent, previous board, our board before I came on, and especially with Ms. Poe and I working this last year. What we've done is anything that we could use that COVID dollars for and not touch our general fund, that's what we've been doing. So you heard me say maintenance supplies, you heard me say custodial supplies. all those expenses for the last few years have been coming out of COVID money. Now it's back to our general fund. I've said this a few times, and I'm not making it up. When I first came in administration, when I really realized, now this is what, 7, 8 years ago, when I realized we have a funding problem, I'll never forget. I was over the custodial crew at Prattville. They do a great job. And they came to me, they said, hey, Mr. Woodfin, we're out of toilet paper. It's like October, or no, I'm sorry, it's like September. I'm like, well, let's go buy some more. So the principal at the time was Mr. Dennis. I go into Mr. Dennis's office. He said, well, Coach, I don't know what to tell you, but we don't have any more money in that account. I said, well, I know because I'm over that account, but what are we going to do? And I had to sit there with Mr. Dennis, and we had to strategically map out which restrooms and which toilets would have toilet paper in them and which ones did not. So the myth that people think is a myth, well, they had to ration out toilet paper, that's legit because I was the guy that had to do it. I was the guy that the parents got upset. That was my crew. That was my decision. That's when I realized, okay, maybe it's what everybody says it is. Now, do I think we're back to that scenario right now? No. I've said this publicly numerous times. If the public votes no, you will not see cuts this year. We've got a budget. I feel good about it. It's not great, but I feel good about it. You probably will not see many cuts next year because, again, we have enough surplus funding where we're going to be okay. I just left the SSA conference with Dr. Mackey speaking. Statewide, this is not a Tallahassee County, statewide, every superintendent that is stuck at the minimum amount of funding is having the same realization that I am. I don't know what we do in 26, 27 when all these funds are gone, when all this expense is coming out of my general fund, and I'm right back to what I was pre-COVID. That's what I need the public to understand. It's, well, the property values went up. I understand completely. But the formula is the formula. We get money in, we have to send the equivalent back. It does not matter if property value shot up 20 times. That money comes in, we send 10 meals back. Well, why are you doing that? If I told you in the business, you give me 10 million, I give you 70, are you going to take it? Of course, right? That's the way the model is set up, okay? So when we're talking about the ad valorem and we're talking about why, our public needs to understand the local side of it. That's the biggest challenge, and that's what I've been very transparent on. What I just showed you is legit. This is our budget. I encourage anybody that's watching, go look at Ms. Poe's presentations, go look at my presentations. It's probably too transparent if you want to know the truth. But if, no matter how many years I'm in this role, we're all in agreement. The public deserves transparency, and that's what we're going to do. I know these guys feel the same as well. All right, so as far as the yes/no sign, okay. So I will go over this a little bit, and then I think this is the last part. Yeah, that's right. This is the last part. We're going to open it up for questions and let you guys put us on the spot. The things on the right side, I think you all have the little leaflet. Hire additional teaching units and support staff. Now, I know I didn't get very detailed in my presentation. Again, the format of today is to allow people to ask questions. We're getting close to November 5th. Let's allow people to ask whatever they want to ask. This is the number one way that we change the game in our system. And this is what I mean. I'm going to get to something in a minute that's not going to be popular when I talk about decreased career tech funding. What our public does not understand is a lot of the programs that we hang our hat on in Tallahassee County, we raid, we take from our schools, we take their teaching units and we send them to other places. Local units is how districts make things happen. You have to have the ability to locally fund teacher units. All right, so here's what I mean. Your enrollment right now across the county, we're getting ready, I think it's October 18th, we turn in our 20-day count. That number does not set the funding for this year. That sets it for next year. So if you have a decrease in enrollment, which we've traditionally had over the last decade, you're steadily losing teaching units. So why am I keep talking about local units? Here's a real world example. I'll give you two examples, okay? Miss Womble at the kindergarten had an influx of some kids come in. We also had several students come in that had high needs that were in our AAA classroom. We needed to split the classroom. The funding was set last year. I'm gonna say it again. The funding was set last year. So right now, at Prattville Kindergarten, we had to locally fund a unit to split the class sizes to make them manageable. I got a call from parents that were pretty irate in Billingsley. Kindergartners come in, this first week of school, their kindergarten classes jump to 25 and 27. Have any of you ever tried to teach 27 kindergartners? We all know that's not possible, okay? I guess it's possible, but you're not going to do a very good job of it. So what did we have to do? We had to locally fund a teacher unit out there. We're getting ready. I think we made the hire last week. My point of all this is these needs arise, and there's no way to fix it if you don't have local money. So the question is, well, why didn't you do it now and you haven't done it forever? Well, I'm talking about 3 local units. Your big systems that have smaller class sizes, that their curriculum is robust and that has a great career tech education, they locally fund those units. Each unit's about $100,000. That's salary and benefits. So, why am I spending so much time here? What this would allow me to do is this. In March, your principals will have budget meetings with me. We will take this year's enrollment, we will project out how many teachers they will have next year, which makes no sense because we have no idea how many kids they're going to have the following year. That's how the whole state operates. Systems that have local units will say, Daniel Ferris, Dr. Ferris, I know you're down 100 kids. That means you should lose 5 teaching units. But you know what? I think you're going to be okay. We're going to locally fund 3. I just need you to make 2 unit cuts instead of 5. So what does that mean? As a principal at Marbury High School, this is my reality. This is why I'm so adamant about local teacher units. Hardest decision I ever had to make, I lost a unit. Central Office said, hey, you got to cut a unit. I'm looking at my sheet. You can only cut non-tenured teachers. Everybody understands that, right? You can't cut tenured teachers. You can only cut non-tenured. I had a robust art program. Kids loved it. I'm in Central Alabama. I had to hire a softball coach. So I had to cut art at Marbury High School to be able to hire a softball coach. I've made it my #1 goal that my principals do not have to make those decisions. And they'll tell you for the most part, we've been able to move things around. Because I had excess funding from COVID money that we had moved the budget around to give us local dollars. That ability is gone in 26, 27 because you don't have the COVID money to keep playing the 3-shell game and move things around. The second bullet, purchase security enhancements. Guys, I know that sounds very technical. Let me tell you what it is. It's boots on the ground. I've gotten a lot of heat about why don't you guys use metal detectors every single day. Here's the truth. The fiasco that happened at Prattville High School a few weeks ago, that's 100% my fault. I did that. We've been trying to get the metal detector settings to allow kids to come in with book bags on, okay? We thought we had it fixed. We had a social media threat. Many of you know this. It affected everybody in Central Alabama. So Dr. Ferris called me that night at 9 o'clock. I said, well, Dr. Ferris, we did some tests the day before with the machine with Prattville PD. I said, you know what? There's no better time than now to go ahead and go with this. Let's try it. So we changed the settings. It took 2 hours for 1,200 kids. Prattville High School has 1,800, 600 checked out. 2 hours to get 1,200 kids through the 3 points of entry. It's not possible with the amount of staff that we have. The additional security enhancements are boots on the ground to help us with those types of things, but also to have adults in the hallways, because I don't care if you're at Talk County schools or private school or even homeschool, parents that homeschool. If you're not in the room with them, I guarantee you that kid's doing things they shouldn't do when you're not in that room. Kids are kids. If they see people in places, they're going to do the right thing. If you're not there, kids are going to make kid decisions. So I would like to be able to hire additional staffing to help. We've been able to do that at Prattville High, Prattville Junior High. Go ask those principals what their campuses look like. I challenge anybody to go to the campuses. They have a very firm control on those campuses because we have additional personnel that's on that. Now, I would like to be able to replicate that countywide. We just don't have the money to do that right now. Create a performance-based employee incentive program. I'm not aware of anyone in the state that has that right now. Long story short, I know I'm running out of time to be able to do the Q&A. I would really like to be able to tie that into performance. So we set out the goals for each individual school. If the staff hits those goals, we reward the teachers and the staff members at that school with a bonus. The Choose Act is here, whether we like it or not, it's here. So we've got to be able to reward our schools that are knocking it out of the park. Now, I'm a former coach. I believe in competition. Our schools should be competing with each other in Ottawa County first, and then we should be competing against everyone in the River region. If you have an employee-based incentive program where other employees from other districts are going, man, that school knocked it out, they got a $500 bonus or a $1,000 bonus, I'm going there. That's how we're losing our people, is they're able to give supplements that we're not. So that would be a way that we could counter the narrative and reward our people. The last two bullets there, again, renovate facilities, reduce debt. Again, that all ties in. You got to have money at the end to do that. Now, on the no side, close county and city schools. You're trying to scare us. No, ma'am, I'm not. I'm being honest with you. If the budget is short, say $3 million in 26, 27, this is a business. I've got to find $3 million if we're short $3 million. In the city of Prattville, we have an enrollment problem. We have a dual feeder problem. We have a dual feeder pattern that is built on a 2,000 to 2,300 kid model at Prattville High School. Prattville High School has 1,700 kids right now, 1,780 I think. So you're losing about a fourth of what they had 10 years ago. I see Stacy back there. When we were in school, it was 2,300 kids, if I remember right. So that model cannot continue if your enrollment's going down. It definitely cannot continue if I'm looking at a school and we're $3 million short, and hey, I can save some cost by reconfiguring everything. Am I wanting to close any schools? The answer is no. I'm a Ottawa County. I firmly believe schools serve a purpose in every one of their communities. We have enrollment issues in the county. We all know Ottawa, Billingsley, per grade level, their numbers are lower than what it is in town. So people say, well, what school are you going to close? I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm just saying it's a possibility. I don't want 26, 27 to occur. People vote no, and then they go, well, we didn't know. That's why we're putting it out there. Who are you going to close? I have no idea. I can answer this. We're going to do our very best not to make any cuts. But again, this is part of educating the public. If that's the only thing I can do to get back on track, then I got to do what I got to do. Reduce school athletics and fine arts support. Guys, I'm very proud that we overhauled those supplements this year. Every school in our county is in the top 5 to 10% on what they pay out. Statewide, actually, if you want to know the truth, they're more in the top 5%. Every sport, we've broadened the amount of coaches that we have on campus. I'm not shy for this. They know it. I expect good results with the amount of money we're paying. But I'm more proud of the fact that for the first time ever, we have fine art supplements in this county. We have a large percentage of our students that do fine art programs. We've never been able to have those supplements. We've had a few band supplements, but we've expanded that to theater, we've expanded it to choir, and what you're seeing across all of our campuses, those programs are exploding because we're able to take care of our people that are doing the work. Closed Second Chance Alternative Program. I'm going to hit this real quick. I'm running out of time. These next 2-3 things. The reason that's up there is we locally fund the Second Chance program. Yes, we do get some at-risk grants, but for the most part, we use local dollars for the teacher units and support staff. We also use some of our units that Prattville High School and Marbury High School would earn. They go to the Second Chance program. So if I'm $1 million short and I can close the alternative school program, send those units back to the schools, and we don't have to lay off hardly anybody, honestly, that would be the first thing that I would look at. The reality, though, is when kids make a choice that they shouldn't make, there has to be some kind of discipline. So what do districts do if you don't have an alternative school? They suspend them. Well, I'm not being funny. Most kids would welcome a suspension to go home. So are you solving the behavior? I got my personal beliefs. You know, I believe the alternative school serves a valuable component of our education process. The suspension of free breakfast lunch, here's why that's up there. The program is free. I'm going to say it again, the program is free. In case you didn't hear me, the program is free. However, when I taught economics, there was a lesson in the book, my economics students will tell you, we used to laugh about it. The lesson was, there is no such thing as free lunch. There's a cost somewhere. The unintended cost of this program has been two things. I know I'm speeding up. I gotta get done to get your questions. That program led to two issues. Number one, you have to fund all of your schools that qualify for title funding. All right, so long story short, in the past, your high schools, if they qualified, we always denied the money and we sent the money back to the elementary schools and to Ottawa and Billingsley because the need was greater in those places. Under this program, you have to accept it. You have to give the schools the money. I believe it's Marbury High School that qualified this past year. So what did that do? The pot did not change. The distribution changed. So Billingsley and Ottawa lost a little bit of federal dollars. Did we cut the money? No. We locally funded it to make up the difference. So why is it up there? Because the program costs money through indirect cost, okay? The career tech funding, a lot of our people don't understand that Prattville High School gives up on average 10 teaching units. 10 teaching units go down the hill to the Career Tech Center. It benefits all kids, but I'm gonna say this, what kind of difference would 10 additional teachers make at Prattville High School with class sizes and class offerings? If we had local units, I could locally fund the Career Tech Center, and then the schools would be able to keep the units that they rightfully earn. Then programs would grow. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I understand the concern that our programs are stale in Ottawa County, our academics. I get it. But if you're a principal and you're trying to grow a program and you lose 3 units at the end of the year, who are you going to cut? You're going to cut the new program you just started, because that's going to be your non-tenured teacher. That's why you don't see a lot of growth in our academic side, especially at the high school level. All right, last thing, pre-K funding. Why is that up there? We receive about 80% of the money that we need for pre-K. We locally fund the other 20%. So I'm not saying that every one of these are going to occur. I'm not saying one of them is going to occur. It's going to be dependent upon how negative we are with our budget in 26-27. If we're very close to being on track, we could probably make up the difference with personnel on my side, okay? If it's $5 million in the hole, you're going to see massive cuts, because at the end of the day, my job is to run a business and to make payroll and to give the kids the best education they possibly can. So that's why everything's yes and no. Am I saying we're going to do everything on the yes side? I'm not saying that. I'm saying we would like to do these types of programs. Am I saying everything on the no side is going to occur? I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to educate people on, if we're short, these are our major expenses that come out of these dollars that I just went over. These are the major costs. So the only thing I can cut is anything on this side to get back on track with our local dollars. So, sorry I went a little longer than I anticipated there. I'm on, I guess, sit down and questions. Is that right, Ms. Thomas? All right, sounds good. Any questions? Okay, come on now. Come on, somebody's got something.
Transparency is a big issue in Ottawa County for taxpayers. How does the board or Ottawa County Schools plan to show transparency if this referendum were to pass?
All right, so the question there, I know we got some viewers online, the question was about transparency. You know, basically how are we being transparent for the most part? All right, so a lot of the stuff that I just went over probably doesn't make political sense to say publicly. Probably would be easier to not discuss what I just discussed. But again, the people need to know and deserve to know how we're funded, why are we asking for additional funds. So everything I just went over, I understand that if I have to close a school, guys, I live here. I understand what that's going to mean for me and my family and my board members' families. But I'm not doing my job if we're not educating the public on what are the possible outcomes. Now, the transparency side, my board members are adamant, so am I. We are going to be transparent with our public. Now, in education, because of students' rights, it's sometimes hard to be as transparent as you want, and people mislead, they take that and they go, well, you're not being transparent. Well, there's some things we can't tell you, okay? We can't tell you student discipline. We can't tell you certain things. Finances, I challenge you to watch our board meetings. Please watch them. When we get to the consent agenda, you will hear me give a detailed reason why everything's up there. We're letting you know, hey, this is what's out there. On our tax proposal, go online. I know the chamber also did a portal where you can check what the tax is going to cost you. We have a lot of the same stuff. Like, you see governmental agencies being as transparent as we possibly can with our public to let people make the right choice for them. I'm not saying yes or no, the right choice for their families. Great question. I love the question from our local newspaper asking about transparency. I like it. You've been great to work with. I appreciate you. Yes, ma'am.
Superintendent, would you mind sharing how the public can see the expenditures that are through our school system? That's been a question that I've seen lately, and that information is public. So.
Yeah, just in general. The question was, how does the public see the expenditures for us? All right, number one, like I said, on the consent agenda for the board meetings, you will often hear me describe the dollar amount. You will hear oftentimes why we're doing what we're doing. But it's also listed in Ms. Poe's budget. She did a detailed analysis. It's online. We put out, again, in multiple areas, how we're using money. Even in the presentation that I've been doing in the community meetings, it's detailed out to the dollar amount where your money goes. I get it. Hey, you're asking for more money. You guys are wasting money. I've heard it too, and I've been asked that numerous times as well. Again, I will challenge anyone to compare the information you see from Watauga County with anything you've seen before across the state. And I would say that there's no probably to it. I feel that we're as transparent as we legally possibly can be, probably to a fault. So yes, check those areas, check the presentations, tune into board meetings, you'll see the same thing there. Yes, sir.
Mr. Woodman, there's been a lot of conversation about this fact that our property values are going up and, schools should have ample funds. Would you please reiterate the example that you gave about our current 10 mills and how every dime of that 10 mil tax, no matter the value that yields, has to go to the state of Alabama to receive the foundation fund?
Yes, sir. So the question was, with property values going up over the last few years, how do we not have enough money, and then to explain the millage give back to the state. Okay, so the state allows systems to participate in the foundation program. That's the state money program. In order to participate, you have to give the equivalent of 10 mills back to the state. So if your value went up, but the number of mills you have never did, the value is the value. That's why some systems, and that's why these guys, I know they're talking about it too, everybody's looking at the funding model. Do we change it? Do we not? Because here's an unintended consequence. The value of a mill in Watauga County is different than the value of a mill in other counties. So more affluent counties go, well, how does it only cost them $10 million when it cost us $30 million? So we have to give 10 mills, the value of 10 mills back to the state in order to get the state funds. Now again, for us, and you can see all this, you were asked about expenditures, you can see it in the budget presentation, you can see it in our presentation as well. We get $69 million from the state. To get the 69, we have to give up 10 million. 10 million is about the equivalent of our 10 mills.
Can I dovetail to that, David? We only asked for 7 mills of ad valorem. That other 3 mills that he's talking about has to be made up of sales tax. Right. 7 mills is the absolute minimum required by the state that every system has to provide. And then if they don't have the full 10 mills, then they have to make that up with sales tax. And so we're already kind of putting a Band-Aid on it to get the 10 mills so that we get that larger amount back.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take you out of the hot seat, and I'll turn to these three. Guys, as we see it, and I know it's really easy, and I know that everybody probably wants to say this and ask you this question. And I know you guys personally, each one of you, and I know you go to work in Montgomery every day. The solution to this seems like it lies in the legislature. Now, I'm for this. I'm on this Board of Education. I know how deeply this is needed. But is there any movement going forward in the legislature to look at the formula, to look at the way this is funded through our state and to fix the problems of these minimal county systems?
I'll take a stab at that. The question, if anybody couldn't hear, deals with the state portion of the funding and some of the inequities or imbalances that are there, and what can we do, what should be done. There is a lot of momentum right now to restudy the foundation program. It's been in place, I think, 30 to 40 years, something like that. And before that, it was even worse than it is now. So over time, you do need to look at those programs and adjust them and that sort of thing. And that's, and the superintendent mentioned a couple of things. You set the number this year for next year. Those are the things that we're looking at. But I will say, though, even when we do that, and even when that is, let's say, better than it is now, you might change our state funding a little bit in Autauga County, because that pie is that pie that comes from the state, and you divide it by the number of students all across the state, you would have to basically not send counties money at all for it to make a significant amount of difference here. So yes, that needs to be done. Yes, that is being done, but it's not going to solve our problem. So I appreciate that, and that is our job, and that is something that we are doing and need to do, but it's not going to solve our problem here.
One thing to add to that is, if you've been an administrator, and I know you've been in education, and Kyle, but if you've had to sit down and make a budget, principals have to do that off of earned units. And the earned unit number is really too high, but we still have to work within that number. That would be one thing that could be somewhat changed, would be to have a lower class size, which I think would make the greatest improvement in education, is to have fewer children per teacher. But when you look at that and you say, well, I've got 600 kids, and I've got the caps I've got to work with, then you also have to consider that teacher that's supposed to have 25, that number's going to go up when you take and cover special needs children. And those special needs children, maybe there's one teacher per 5. Well, you've got 20 other children you've got to do something with. So it was mentioned, I talked to the person who's in charge of the Educational Trust Fund, and I said, we need to do something about this. He said, we're going to do a complete look at funding education in a different manner. And I said, I'd like to be on that committee. I'd like to have an opportunity, because I'm the only one sitting in this legislature that has been a principal and has had to balance a budget when you had a limited manning board and a high special ed population. I've not yet been called to be on that. And I know they've had 3 meetings, okay? And I have mentioned that several times, because when you look at education and you look at it from the high elevation, you don't see those details that you have to really work with, as far as really mandating the right number of teachers per children and having those children be as few as possible per teacher.
We've had a question online. Okay. I think this is for you, Superintendent. Is there anyone that follows up on new students, especially athletes coming into Prattville schools? Are legitimate addresses being required? Why are problem kids being allowed into our schools?
So the question was, just so that everybody can hear, so the question was, are we following up on new enrollees with their addresses? And then it specifically asked about athletes. And okay, so we overhauled the entire enrollment process with our centralized registration department. They are looking at every new enrollee, and they send back the application numerous times if it is not correct. We overhauled board policy, where before a family could, if we're just being honest, they could pick 3 or 4 things out of a long list of things and get in. Now, the only way you can get enrolled in Autauga County schools is, we call them buckets, but there's 3 bullet points that you have to have everything listed in that bucket to get in. Now, am I sitting here saying that every person in Autauga County lives in Autauga County? Guys, I think we all know that's not possible to know. But I can tell you, when we get a report, the question was about athletes, I'll answer that specifically. When we get a report about a student not living in our district, we investigate it. Mr. Barrington is our special programs director. He's the athletic director for the county. that comes to him. He specifically meets with the school's athletic director. The school's athletic director does home visits in accordance with the AHSA regulations. And again, I'll say this, because I had a couple parents the other day that, were upset. And, well, I know they don't live in the zone. Well, I understand, but if the HSA goes out there and says the person is eligible, then they're eligible. We follow the guidelines in the process that's in play. So to answer it, we're doing everything we possibly can. Now, centralized, we're having to overhaul it a little. Anytime you're building the boat as you're in the ocean trying to stay in it, there's going to be some things that pop up. But the ladies are doing a great job, and they're working very, very hard on that. So I think we've been proactive on stopping some of the fraud. That by fraud, I mean people who don't live here coming in. I know we've kept out quite a bit of families that got caught, and I know we've kicked out several families that got caught. It's just an ongoing process that you're never going to fully solve, because when your district has 8,700 kids and you have right now 4 employees that go through every application, you're going to miss some. That answer?
Yeah, I think the only other thing is, why are problem students being allowed into our schools?
The question is, why are problem students being allowed in our schools? I think I'm on, well, no, let's just answer it. We cannot keep anyone from enrolling in Autauga County schools if they meet the enrollment criteria. Now, problem student is left to the person to define what a problem student. Some people may have defined me as a problem student in high school. I was a little mischievous too. But I can say this with I'll say as clearly as I can. I can tell you that our code of conduct has been overhauled. I can tell you that our families know that if their child makes a decision that is not what they need to make, we're going to follow the code of conduct. Our code of conduct is severe. It is probably more harsh than districts around us. We have made some adjustments to it. But I will never shy away from saying this. We take a lot of pride in running a tight ship, that we're going to hold everybody to the same standard. The policy is the policy. So the question about allowing troubled kids and all that, I don't know the troubled side of it. I can tell you every kid in Autauga County has the same expectations. We're following our policy procedures at every time it pops up.
One more. So could you explain a little bit about the millage being requested and what that increase looks like? There's been some misunderstanding of what that increase may or may not be.
On a personal level? No, what do you mean?
Or just what that increase may look like for families living in the area if they vote yes.
Superintendent, that's exactly what I was about to say, because we've talked a lot about the school system today, and that was to get that information out there, and that's good. But from a personal standpoint, how does this affect me? That's the question that a lot of folks are going to ask. If you live in the city of Prattville, which is where we are, you pay 31 mills in property tax per year. Some of that goes to the state, some of that goes to the city, some of that goes to the county. So a total of 31 mills. So on a $100,000 house, just for the easy math, a $100,000 house is assessed at a 10% rate. So your assessed value is $10,000. When you multiply that times 31 mills, you pay $310 per year on a $100,000 house. What this increase would do is go from 31 mills to 38 mills. So instead of paying $310, you would pay $380. So if you look at that on a monthly basis, which most people are paying their mortgage on, that's $6 a month on a $100,000 house. Say you have a $200,000 house, it's $12 a month. So the math, it extrapolates up. So depending on everybody's situation, some would be less than $6, some would be more. But $200,000 house, I think that might be $200,000 or $300,000. 200 is probably close to the median. $12 a month is what it means to us as individuals. And you can look at everything in percentages and that sort of thing. And there's people putting information out about this huge percentage increase. Going from 31 mills to 38 mills is a 22.5% increase. That's what it is. That's the math. Now, if you want to massage it and look at it some other way, you can do that. But me as a homeowner, I look at how much I pay in ad valorem taxes and how much I'm going to pay. It'll be 22.5% more if this passes, which equates to the $6 a month and $12 a month if it's $200,000 house. So hopefully that will help people, and I think there's calculators out there that will help you calculate that if you need to, or call me, email me, I'll help you if and others will, the Revenue Department will. So that's how it affects us personally.
Yes, sir.
Can you comment on the argument that people talking about the state having a surplus of $2.2 billion and why that doesn't work for funding these local endeavors?
Yes, sir. Or you want to take that? Or, yeah.
The state does have I think you said, how much? So, $2.2 billion. If you look at all of our funding and trust funds, we actually have a little bit more than that. But what we did is, and those are big numbers, $2.2 billion. But if you look at the overall state budget, which, you add all that together, that's actually a smaller percentage of it. So let's put that on our personal levels. Are we safe and secure in our finances if we don't have some type of reserve? No, we're not, because those emergency things do come up. Something happens with a roof, or air conditioning goes out, or those type things. So we all need to have those reserves. The state is no different. I actually was part of the group that put a reserve on the general fund side. We never had that on the general fund side. So what happened was, every time there was a major problem, or every time revenue flattened out, we couldn't balance the budget. So we had to cut services, send people home, and most people remember it as proration. Proration devastates any type of system. Think about your own home. If you get halfway through the year and you have to cut everything by 10 or 15%, that's hard to do. The way that you prevent that is having a reserve. So it's easy to look at that and target, say, oh, we just need to spend that. But in business, I want to have a 20% reserve. That's too much, in my opinion, for government. But any reserve in the amount of 10%, that is a good way of having government be stable. Why do we want government to be stable? It affects economic development if we're unstable. My first year in the Senate, we had a $250 million hole in the general fund. So what does that do to a company who's looking at Alabama versus Tennessee or Georgia, and then maybe they don't have those issues? Well, they're going to say, well, I don't know how they're going to fix that. They're probably, it may negatively affect me. So they're going to go to Georgia and Tennessee, even if they have to pay more in taxes, because they know it's more stable. So anyway, that's a long answer to your question and hit a bunch of other topics, but it is very important for us to keep that reserve, just like it is very important for us as individuals to have a reserve for those rainy days.
Sure.
How does it benefit me to vote yes if I don't have children in the system?
Okay. Y'all are welcome to, but I'll jump on that. How does it benefit you? I will challenge anyone to, and I'm not taking any shot at any district or anything. I'll just ask you to be transparent to yourself. Go study the state of Alabama. When local districts start losing money for public schools, there's a inverse relationship to how that's going to affect your community. School systems that are locally funded thrive. School systems that are not locally funded struggle. When the struggle continues over the years, you lose people. When you lose people, you lose quality of education. When you lose quality of education, you lose your community. Go look, and again, I'm not saying anywhere in particular. That is where we are at. And we've ran away from this reality long enough. We are losing people. Now, I'll say this. I feel like we have slowed that down. I think our employees are much happier. I feel like we've made a lot of progress. But again, it's hard to compete with districts that can offer things that you cannot. As a parent, very soon in the next year or so, every parent will have the option to go pretty much where they want to in terms of public education. If they can go to smaller class sizes in, I don't know, Chilton County or Elmore County, and they can have better educational opportunities, parents are going to make those choices. And why am I spending so much time on that? For every 20 kids that leave, you lose a teacher job. Period. On average, over the last 10 years, we've lost about 100 students per year. Do the math. We're down over 1,000 kids over the last decade. So what happens is where we're at right now. So personally, why should you vote yes? I touched on the education side. I didn't even get into the business side. Businesses are going to come where you're thriving, where your educational system thrives. I've got a lot of business people in here that could probably speak on that better than I can. Maxwell Air Force Base is looking at what we're doing right now. That's not a myth. That's fact. What does the river region look like if military families continue to not come to Ottawa County schools? I can tell you what it looks like, and it's not good. It's not good for Prattville. It's not good for Ottawa County. It's not good for Elmore County. Maxwell Air Force Base is one of the biggest business partners we have. Then you got the property value. We all want to pass down property to our families that are worth more than what we paid for it. If the education system struggles, please go challenge yourself and go look at the property values of systems that have thriving educational systems compared to the property values of systems that have a weak public education.
Well, I will say this. My son, he moved down to Mobile, Alabama, because that's where his girlfriend's from. And my two stepchildren live in Birmingham. So I do not have any kids. I don't foreseeing them moving back to Prattville. So I will be one of those people that does not have a kid in the system or any future in the system. But I do see a future for Prattville, for Ottawa County to have a strong school system. And I'm gonna vote yes, because I'll tell you this, because it brings a great community and a great school system with this. Maxwell, I'll never forget it. And the commander said that we do not have a vital school system and that it's a threat for Maxwell to close. And if we don't do something, if we're not going to be the answer for the river region, we're going to have a problem. And Maxwell will close. And I'll say this, I formed a committee, and I've said this numerous times, and we studied the school system here in Ottawa County, and Kyle was on the committee, Marcus Jackson, and several other people, business leaders in different communities. And we were looking at a city school system. And we brought all the information, and we studied for about a year. And with that information, the board came back to us and said, hey, listen, we will do appointed school superintendent, and we'll try to increase ad valorem. And we, as a committee, decided to give the county an opportunity to do that. And with that being said, they've followed through, and we've got a new school board system. I want to say accolades to y'all. Y'all have done a great job, and with the Lyman Superintendent Woofin being appointed by y'all, y'all have done a wonderful job. He is doing great. He is selling this, and I think we as a community is better off. So I just want to give kudos to you, Superintendent Woofin. Thank you for what you're doing.
If I could go back to the question about, why should I support this if I don't have somebody in the system. I've already mentioned a couple of things: air conditioning, automobile mechanics, that kind of thing. But think about a few other things. The light in this room, the power. There is a tremendous amount of math and science behind getting that from a body of water to that fixture. There's a lot of math and science that goes into that. What about our water? We want clean water to drink. We want to clean the water before we return it back to the environment. Tremendous amount of math and science behind all those. That is how, on an everyday, day-to-day basis, this is important to all of us. Because if we don't have those clean water, don't have the electricity, then our quality of life suffers. We take this for granted, that it's always going to be there. But we have to have an educated workforce to continue those things, to make those things happen. I see the pastor on the front row. We need an educated workforce to be able to study books, study God's Word, and make decisions for ourselves. If we're not educated, we can't make those decisions for ourselves. We just have to listen to what people tell us. When we're educated, we can study, and we can chart those paths that we choose instead of those that are chosen for us.
We had another question on the line. Representative Starnes, you hit on it, but I'm going to ask it and you guys can elaborate. Would Prattville moving to a city school system take care of the funding issues we are having now? It seems other city school systems around the state have better facilities, academics, and athletics. They are typically also rated well in education or graduation rates and test scores. Please explain why we haven't considered moving in this direction.
You got it? You want me to go ahead? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, and I'll
no, you can go first.
All right. Well, like I said, I went to the mayor probably 8 years ago, and I said, Mayor, we need to move to a city school system. He said, do some research and let's go back to it. And he was fully on board with the committee, and he attended different times and things. He said, and then the reason we didn't, as a committee, we got scared with the liabilities that the county system have to bring up under the Prattville system. And I said, with those liabilities and the older school system, older schools, that would burden the city. Do I think it should? I'm hoping with the county school system that we can improve it and be a Shelby County. I think Shelby County is in the top 10. But they are all city school systems that you see that are well-funded and thriving through the state. But if this does not pass, I will be jumping on board, doing whatever I can to push for a city school system. But I have hope for a county school system. Thank you.
I look at that question from an economic standpoint. When you have 2 superintendents, 2 boards of education, 2 administrations, 2 of everything, it is less efficient than 1. That's just simple common math. So thinking that we're going to split something and make one of them better without changing something else, to me, is just a false narrative. We got to fix and expand and do, and fix is not the right word. Our educators have done a yeoman's job with the resources that they have had. Almost to the point that's our obstacle. But going down the road, ad valorem rates revenues have increased, but so has the power bill, so has the cost of buses, so has the cost of construction. All of those things have increased as well. So if you are not moving forward, you're actually going backwards. You're not holding your own. You're actually going backwards. So to me, it's a pure physical consideration. That is not going to solve a problem, in my opinion.
I have two thoughts on that. First of all, my graduate thesis was on the cost of administration. And when you do duplicate services, that takes money out of the classroom. I don't care how you look at it. It's certainly not going to add more to the classroom. My second thought is I have a son and a daughter-in-law who work in the Hoover system. City school, okay, performs well, has a lot of extras and benefits. Their tax base is 41 mills. Is that not glaring? That our ad valorem tax is really 7. Theirs is 41. It's like other things that people want government to give you, but it has to be funded from somewhere. So if you want those things, it's kind of like the new car you want. Well, it's going to cost you some money. So to have those pretty things that glitter, you sometimes have to pay the bill.
I'll finish up. Representative Smith took my thunder there. Now, I think, obviously, I think everybody in this room and online knows I support a county system. The county system has been very good to Ottawa County for a long, long time. That being said, it boils down to dollars. And city systems, quite frankly, like Representative Smith just said, are funded 2 to 3 times more than what we are. Now, I'll say this, and it's probably not going to be popular, but I firmly believe in doing the will of the people. And we have been very clear that come November the 5th, the model is going to change. Am I saying a city system, Mayor? No, I'm not. Okay, Mayor and I talk all the time. What I am saying is we are prepared to make cuts and changes that we have to make. But I'm more prepared to say this. I refuse to allow us to continue being okay. I refuse to allow it. And whatever solution has to come up to solve that, then so be it. I refuse. When I interviewed, I said, it is not okay to be okay. This county, for so long, has allowed it to be okay to be okay. And it's not right. And I'm not going on the tax rant. I'm going on in general. Tour the schools. You will see our people are happy. You will see kids are getting a great education. You will see changes need to occur. And I'm committed to doing whatever the citizens of Ottawa County tell us to do. I don't want to shut schools. I don't want to reconfigure stuff. But guys, if we're losing 300, 400, 500 kids every year in the city of Prattville and enrollment in the county is not doing what we're needed to do, and the level of funding never changes, it's business. I have no choice. I'm going to have to make certain decisions and certain cuts. And y'all pray for me when I'm in public, because it's going to be bad. Now, will I do everything in my power to avoid all that? Y'all know the answer. The answer is yes. We will move the 3 shells as much as we possibly can. What is scaring everybody, like Dr. Mackey stood up in front of every superintendent yesterday and said, it is coming in 26, 27. Community colleges know it. We know it. It's all here whether we like it or not. You better start making plans for when it arrives, you're not caught off guard. That's what we're doing. If the initiative passes, you will see that, hey, we're going to put some things out there. If the initiative fails, guys, we will immediately start plans for a 2 to 3 year process of reconsolidation and looking at what we got to do. I know the question was city and county system. The whole deal with city is it boils down to dollars. They're fighting the same battle we're fighting. You got to have tax revenue to support it. So, any other questions, Ms. Thomas, or anything? Anybody else have any questions in the public? Well, I don't know how we're ending it. I just want to say I commend again the chamber, CAC. I appreciate you, Mr. Lynn, being such a vital partner with us. Thank you for having us. Thank you for everybody that came. Thank you for everybody that watched online. And again, I want to end it with thank you to you three.
Can we say a closing comment?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. You got one.
I have to watch what I say because I'll say something that will not be well received. But anyways, last night my wife and I went to see Nick Saban speak with the BCA. And I said that was a great event. And he said there's not an I in team, but he said there is a win in I with win. And I'm going to try to say this correctly and bring it to this forum. Everyone here is a leader within the community. If we can, as individuals, speak out in our community and support this and bring it to a win, we win as a community. So I'm asking you, please, as individuals, go out there and advocate for this ad valorem. We need it for the community. We need it for our school system. We need it for our students and our teachers. And it's a great opportunity. So with that being said, I hope we can win this, well, as Nick Saban would say.
You know, we have a very, very rich history here in our community, dating back to the early 1800s. And I don't want to oversell this or make it more dramatic than it is, but we're at a crossroads in our community. Do we look to the past and live on that, or do we look to the future and do what we need to do to make our community continue to prosper? Personally, I think that's where we're at. And I think if we invest in our future, the quality of life for our great-grandchildren and beyond will be what we were able to have now. And I'm afraid that if we don't, it won't be. So for me, a small investment, $6 a month, $12 a month, $20, whatever it is for your personal situation, is a small investment to help guarantee that prosperous and good quality of life in the future. So that's where I am, and hopefully others will be there. But it's just great that we live in a country that we actually have a say in this decision. We get to decide this. All of us get to decide this. And for that, I'm grateful.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and express our points of view. I would say that you are, as Senator Chambliss said, you're the leaders. But right now, you're the positive leaders. Those that are going to scream the loudest and be the least informed and have the least understanding are those that are not here. So thank you for being here.
All right. Well, guys, again, I just want to land the plane with this. The fact that you guys allowed our citizens to have the right to vote on the direction we're going as a county, we're forever indebted to you guys. I know it puts you guys in a very bad position politically, and on a personal note, I think we're all friends now, and I appreciate, number one, the friendship. I appreciate the ability to be able to call you up, pick your brain a little bit on things, but more so, I appreciate you giving our citizens the right to vote on this. And we just encourage our people to vote on November 5th. And I just want to thank everybody for coming. And again, gentlemen, thank you.
Let's give our panel a hand for the information they shared today. There was some great information shared today, so we take this back to our family and friends and let them know this is great for the quality of life here in Prattville. As a product of Ottawa County Schools, we need this here in Ottawa County to raise this ad valorem tax. So take this back to your family, the good information, so we can get this bill passed on November 5th. Thank you to our panel again, Superintendent Wolfen, and our legislators and guests for coming out today. Make sure you stop in the lobby to grab some marketing material on your way out. Thank you for coming. Have a great day.